Time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanopt.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're going to talk about scaling your business. We're going to talk to a business owner, a leader who helps brands, big brands, scale online, on Amazon, on their own websites, getting into Walmart. It's going to be an interesting conversation about business scalability in general. So Joshua Lee, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. Super glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. As we were kind of chatting before we started recording, the last thing you said to me was where I want to start this episode. You're talking about leadership and how that's kind of the only thing in business. So this plays into scalability, because if you're not a good leader or you don't have good leaders in your organization, it's just going to be really, really hard to scale. So tell me about your personal leadership journey and how you ended up finding that out, because I assume it was the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So I think it always starts in a leadership journey. It starts when you grew up, where you grew up, how you grew up. And I just celebrated my 33rd birthday a couple days ago. And
Wait, hang on. I did too. What day is your birthday?
Really? June 6th.
Oh, mine's June 1st. We're a couple days apart. I love it.
Yeah, dude. So 33, you learn a lot. You realize you're not invincible. You realize that you're not immune to physical, things that might happen to you, physical health issues. My leadership journey is just beginning, in my opinion, because when I grew up, I didn't really have a good, I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and I didn't have a great model for leadership growing up in my home. Love my mom and dad, respect them, but just the cultural differences, being a Korean American, and a lot of times in the Asian cultures and other cultures, the dad is more distant and doesn't really give you that sort of upbringing that you might want, kind of like the training aspect of it. So, once I went to college, once I started working, I realized there was a big gap in the leadership aspect. I think, so in my 30s, I would say that is when I started realizing, I've got 2 young kids now as well, so that probably triggered something too. But that's when I realized that I am a leader, and most men and women are leaders. And if the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're able to start the journey of leadership, because it is never ending. And so, now I'm the founder and CEO of First Light Studios. And as you're mentioning, we help legacy brands grow online. With the transition of D2C, we're finding that a lot of companies that, say, grandma and grandpa has, or maybe your great grandma and grandpa started, they're beginning to languish or flatline in sales because a lot of that is going to online. And so there's a gap between knowledge and business model. It's a B2B to B2C. And so we help them start that, grow that, consult, and figure out how to do that. And so I would say leadership is a joy, but it's super difficult.
Yeah, that's one way to say it, for sure.
Yeah.
I like how you talk about that too, because it's, regardless of your position or your experience, we all lead something. If nothing else, you have to lead yourself.
Yeah.
You have to lead your customers in some cases. So it doesn't matter how many people report to you to be considered a leader.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to understand what that term really means and how to do it effectively. So different podcast, different episode, but I like to start there, because now moving into kind of the clients you serve and leading them effectively, you're talking big brands potentially who are used to one business model. They're coming to you for help to get in front of a massive number of people where maybe they only have like 4 clients. I'm sure that's happened. And now they're trying to get in front of billions, I would think, on Amazon. What does that look like when you're talking to a brand to analyze if they're ready to scale this way, if they're even capable of changing their business model? What's that conversation typically look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when we drill into it, we do go through retail readiness playbook, if you will, to figure out if they are ready to go online. But before that, it does begin with the team itself. And usually the founder or the group of the group of owners now, usually the kids of the founder. And it starts with the decision from them. A lot of times the group that's owning it or running it, they don't want to go online for many different reasons. Feel like they might hurt their wholesale relationship. So in the past, if you sold online, you wouldn't get picked up by a wholesaler, maybe distributor. But that's changing now, because those wholesalers and distributors, they're the ones selling on an Amazon or a Walmart now. So as the brand owner, we believe that's actually your channel to own, control your brand, control your pricing, and really increase your profit margins by going direct on that channel. It's not that much more work. And so it begins with the owner. Do they want to go online? What do they want to do? Do they want to bring someone else on? Because when you're nearing the end of a journey, particularly for legacy brands, thinking about retirement, thinking about next steps, wanting to preserve what you built, there's a different thought process around that than wanting to grow exponentially. So like if I was running the manufacturing center, I'd be like, hey, let's set aside the next year and grow as hard as we can. It's a different stage of life, different desires. And so there's got to be a need for it. The next part is moving into kind of a 9-pillar assessment that we have. Everything from financial strength. So there has to be an actual business case where you can profit online. Some products may or may not work just due to the cost of shipping to the end customer, due to the current COGS, labor costs, the cost of raw materials. Some industries, it just doesn't make sense right now. Tariffs right now. Tariffs are a concern if you're manufactured overseas, and you've got a bunch of different costs. But we go through with typically a 98% accuracy on what your P&L would look like if you started selling online. And then we move up the chain and we go through, strategic assessment, taking a look at your competitors online, how much market share they have right now, and if you can make a dent there. Taking a look at your digital assets, if there's any. And
I like that. That's cool technical difficulty during the show. We'd never had that before.
Yeah. I'm in like a little phone booth, so it just turned off.
I love it.
And then we'll take a look at different aspects and layers, with the last part being strategic. And that's where we look at the next 3 to 5 years and say, hey, we believe, say you're at like 500,000 a year right now, or say you're at $1 million a year online sales. We believe we can get to 5x doing these, and we'll create a budget for you. We'll create a plan for you. We'll take a look at what are the people needs internally, who needs to run this, where the gap is, if you need to hire somebody externally, someone like our group to run it for you and report on your behalf and work with somebody at your company. That's what we do. We go through the entire assessment and make sure that it's actually going to be a viable option for those companies. So,
which is way better than just putting products online and hoping they sell. which I'm sure in your case, you know, dealing with legacy brands and established businesses, that's
Mhm.
not what they're doing anyway. But you know, a lot of people just think you can toss a product online on Amazon and you'll be a millionaire, not accounting for all of the other factors involved. The first
Uh,
thing that popped in my head was, you know, if a brand, let's say they're selling water bottles, I don't know if you work with a brand that sells water bottles. It's just the first thing that popped in my head. And you're shipping them in pallets direct to a wholesaler, and then they worry about the rest, the B2C aspect of it. The first thing that popped in my head was, oh man, now you have to retain those pallets, break them up piece by piece. But then I was like, no, you don't, because you can probably just ship them directly to Amazon or Walmart or whatever, and they step in as the wholesaler. So I'm sure it could go both ways, where you're handling distribution or Amazon is. But what are the key things that maybe these brands don't consider or they overlook when they first start to see if is this a viable route for us to scale our business?
that absolutely, and that is correct. In terms of the distribution, that's typically the easy path. That's something that is simply an education and a pathway that we can tell them about. Hey, you can do this or this. We can do that for you. Those are all set, and you kind of pick one. And the one thing that I would say that brands and manufacturers often overlook is that they may have tried it before. There's going to be a history of selling online. Most manufacturers have tried it or had somebody else try it before, and it didn't turn out the way that they wanted it to. Or maybe they threw products up, like you're mentioning, and maybe during the pandemic it grew, and now it's very, very flat or it's declined. And the reason is you have professionals, you have groups like ours, you have wholesale and distributor groups that are really good at the channel, really good at selling online. Even though you own the brand, if you're selling on a marketplace like Amazon or Walmart, you don't own what's called the buy box. And only one person gets credit for the sale at a time. And that buy box is a variable factor who wins it, but it's a competition factor. And that is really the difficulty that a lot of manufacturers and brands overlook, is that their products might be selling a ton, but they're only, say there's a water bottle that sells 2,000 units a month, and they're the brand owner. They sell it in like an REI. They sell it in specialty athletic sporting goods stores. You can see on Amazon it sells 2,000 units per month, but you're selling it yourself. You're only selling like 20 units. The reason is you may have a gap in how to win the buy box. And basically the buy box, how it works is you win it by typically lowest price, highest seller score. So you have a long history of selling on Amazon. It's an algorithmic based approach. Lowest price and fastest shipping speed is typically heavily weighted. So that's going to give you more preference to winning the buy box. But there's like a bunch of other factors that go into it. And so if you're a brand and manufacturer, you're not thinking about that, or you are, but you just don't know what to do. And so you can go and learn it, go online, go on ChatGPT, go on Google and learn it yourself. But by the time you do that, and what companies need to understand is that there are groups like ours, internal teams that are doing this full time. And so it's going to be very difficult for them to grow it if they want to take that path forward and really make a meaningful online business, really build a meaningful online business. What I would recommend is looking at the sales potential and creating a plan from there. So a lot of times, if you're a legacy brand, people are already searching for your products and they want it, and they're already buying it. If you're able to estimate and find, if you're able to find an estimate of how many units you sell total across your entire catalog, that'll give you sort of your top line sales numbers. And then you can kind of work backwards from there in terms of, is Amazon a viable path? And if so, we can capture this much sales right now. This is excluding growth. So the investment you may make into advertising or branding, which we always recommend to win more market share, that's one thing that they can do right now.
That makes sense. I'm curious. You talked about, I think this was before we started recording, but that Amazon is the largest retailer and 50% of online sales come from Amazon. So every other order placed online goes through Amazon. That
That's correct.
kind of blows my mind. I mean, it makes sense conceptually, but still, you think about the vastness of that number, it's crazy. That being said, there are name brands and everyday brands. I go to Amazon first. I'm sure you do, and most of the listeners do, to look for things. There are name brands that don't show up, and they're not on Amazon. What would cause a brand to say, I don't really want to do that? Is it the price that Amazon takes, like the percentage they take? Is it the cost to fulfill? Is it the cost of what it would be people-wise on their team? Like, why do brands opt out of the potential to get in front of that many people?
Absolutely. I think when we're talking about legacy brands, there's a fear of the unknown. So there's a fear of doing business online. There's a fear of angering your current manufacturing. Your current wholesale distributor partners. And then there's a fear of not understanding what the unit economics look like for selling on an Amazon. But you are correct. Amazon basically has 1 out of every 2 online orders in the US. So all those UPS, USPS, Amazon trucks you see out there, that delivery guy is, 1 out of 2 boxes is Amazon related, which is crazy. I would say it's really the fear of the unknown, because there's really not a clear, they just don't. A lot of times there's an unknown in terms of what it takes to sell and how to succeed and how much it costs. And those are very simply laid out. And that's a process that we have. That's a process that you can, look up on Amazon as well. But you just have to put in the work into aggregating all those costs and organizing all that together to tell the story. But, first step is to understand those costs and see if you might be profitable on an Amazon or Walmart. A lot of times the answer is yes, absolutely yes. And then the second is figuring out what it takes to succeed. I mean, that's kind of just really 2 parts of it. And then once you educate and once you start eliminating that fear of the unknown by presenting data and showing that, hey, your products can do really well online. They kind of are, but you can actually make a lot more. And excitement starts to come. So the fear turns into excitement. And that's sort of my role whenever I speak with a new prospect or a new client. An example I can share with you is we have been working with the client. They're number 1 manufacturer in a subcategory in the arts and crafts industry. Joann's shut down. They have been doing online sales, but the majority of their business is brick and mortar. So selling into like a Joann's or a Michael's, a retailer like that, and different moms and pops across the US. And when we started talking with them, they said that they tried multiple different things. They hired consultants before. Their sales were in the low millions annually. We started working with them and we took a look at their catalog, hundreds of SKUs. But for us, we put together a game plan depending on what the owner's priorities were. Was it profit? Was it market share? Was it simply to look good online? So just have a great brand online. Sometimes the priority isn't all of them, but it's one of those. So depending on the priority and what the company wants, we'll develop a game plan for them and get them on a track to success. A lot of times it's increasing profits. And so in this case, it's increasing profits. And so what we did is we targeted within the catalog which products were the most profitable and had the most demand offline right now. So in the brick and mortar stores, which ones were selling the most, and finding that gap between online and offline demand. A lot of times, if people are buying it in the store, they're also going to want to buy it in similar volumes online or more. And that was a very simple thing that we did, was to match those up. And we put a advertising plan, improved their listings, got them new images, new videos, and that account is off to grow, 2+X over the next year. Just doing those steps right there. So that's just a quick example that I can share.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even like, you're just leaving that money on the table, or that opportunity on the table, if you don't even look. I was in
Totally.
It's funny you say that, because I was in Michael's like literally yesterday, and I was on my phone on Amazon looking at all the items, because this is not a knock on Michael's or that brand, but I was looking at the price and like, there's no way, like there's absolutely no way things cost this much. Either I've been living under a rock and inflation is rampant, or these prices are just a little bit too high. And I was just going back and forth. I'm like, yeah, they're lower on Amazon by like 20 to 40% in some cases. So like that brand, they could pick up all the traffic there instead of having the person say no.
Yeah.
You have the alternate buying route. So I don't know if that's what's happening with them. It's interesting to me to see the lost opportunity that people could be stepping over, and you may not even know it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a squeeze happening where costs are increasing. Retailers like Michael's, they still need to meet their profit goals for different brands and different categories. And unless they mark it up a certain amount, they're not able to achieve that. So, part of what we try and do though is create pricing consistency. So making sure the price is relatively the same, maybe 5% variance between all channels, online and offline. So that's a whole another analysis. That way customers, they're not shocked when they look it up on Amazon and they're like, oh my gosh, this sewing kit is like $30 cheaper online and it's shipped in 2 days. Like, how is that possible? There's a lot of reasons why that can happen and does happen, but we typically recommend trying to keep at some sort of, consistent pricing across all your channels.
Yeah. And in that scenario too, I mean, even better for the company, because if the in-store price is inflated, then over what they would have put it for online or on their website, well, if you match it, you're making the difference. So
Totally.
yeah. It's a win-win-win. So
I just wanted to share real quick. So I actually have a checklist. It goes through all the line items for the cost of doing business on Amazon. And so it's basically like a fill in the blank. We use it when we talk to prospects and companies that are trying to figure out if Amazon's a good fit. We'll just do it with them. And we use it internally as well. I would love to share that tool if anybody's interested here. I don't know if.
Let's do it. Is it on your website?
So it's actually in an internal folder right now, but I guess if they DM me on IG, I can send it to them. And if you just DM me, Harmonious,
I like it
right away.
Awesome. So I put that on the screen. You can follow Joshua on Instagram. It's one Joshua Lee, all together. It's also in the show notes down below. So those instructions will be down there. But send him a DM if you're interested in scaling your brand on Amazon or into Walmart. Like he said, you can go through and do the checklist on your own and then see if it's a good fit for you. But Joshua, I appreciate that. And thank you also for stopping by and sharing your wisdom. This was a cool episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's a free P&L, plug and play calculator. So happy to share that. Haven't shared that before, so just wanted to share that if anyone was interested in it.
I love it. It's valuable stuff. Wherever you're watching and listening, go down in the show notes, grab that information. Joshua's website is also down there, so you can go check that out. But thanks for joining us. I hope you subscribe, and I hope to see you back on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in your life and business.